On the afternoon of November 14th, with decoy in hand, Jared Mills heads into a secluded food plot known to be an all-day feeding location.
He's a good-looking deer. Trying to get into our spot, which is another 15 yard. Plan on putting the decoy out there, but there's a bunch of deer out there, including a good 8 right now. So I think we're gonna leave the decoy back and just try to crawl to our spot. And if the deer work off or get a chance to put the decoy out, we will, but there's no way we're getting out there right now. We'll be lucky if we even get to our spot without busting it. I hate to say it, but I think this decoy is parked here for the night. Could you imagine if we have it out right now, though? Then we have to be coming out.
While Jared attempts to sneak into position on the edge of the secluded plot, 30 miles to the northwest, Mike Reed moves cameras on the river farm, hoping to uncover the presence of one of the property's targets. After refreshing batteries and repositioning some of his cuttybacks, Mike settles into his afternoon hide on his nearby, newly acquired farm.
Mid-November adjustments featuring Mike Reed.
Sunday, November 14th. Ryan and I skipped the morning hunt this morning due to wind advisory. It was 45 mile per hour winds. I woke up and looked outside and all the trees were leaning sideways, so decided to stay in the house and get some work done. Midday we were able to slip out to the main river bottom piece and get some batteries refreshed and get some cameras moved around for further strategy moving forward these next couple weeks. This afternoon we are set up on this smaller 28-acre piece across the river on a spot that we haven't hunted yet. I've hunted not too far down the tree line there during Doe Fest, and then we've hunted the blind on the hill and we've hunted in the northeast corner, but tonight we've got a northwest wind, so we're just sitting over this little plot. We're in here looking for that Dagger's buck. He was here a couple days ago in the morning, and we had him after dark on camera that night. I think it was the 12th. He's just a really cool looking deer, super mature. Love to lay eyes on him, and there's a few other bucks I would like to see in person, get a better judge of how old they are. We'll see how it works out. Got about 2 hours left to go. My hope is that we get deer working out of this big bedding area and just come down the mowed path along the timber into the food plot. If we can minimize our movement, hopefully we can get one in the bow range. I cannot believe he busted that G2 off. That's awesome. It was pretty awesome to see that buck again. That's the same buck that we filmed in the pouring rain out of his redneck blind when he stood up out of his bed. It was late October, I believe. Really heavy deer. His tines are really massive. He's actually broken the G2 off on the right and that common base point. I've been on the fence whether he was 4 or 5. You know, at first time I got trail cam pictures, I thought he was 4. Then we got some pictures late October, he looked 5. When we saw him in the rain, he looked 5. But today he looks to me like a clear 4-year-old. And then since he broke, it makes it a little bit easier. So, but yeah, he just walked across the back of the plot here at 35 yards. We had seen, and we still actually have a doe and a fawn over here, but we've had 8 antlerless deer. It was four does and 4 fawns worked by us through different groups, and no bucks. And it's just, it's crazy. But and then he popped up out of the ravine here and went mess with one group of them, and then he just ran up through the food plot. He's been sent checking the field there. Pretty cool to see him again. Hopefully he can make it through the year and we can chase him next year. We're down to our last 15 minutes, so we'll see if old Dagger pops out. Otherwise, I'm back to work tomorrow. So if anything else pops out tonight, we'll show it to you guys. Otherwise, we'll see you next time we're out.
As Mike's evening comes to a close, back on the secluded food plot, Jared is still working on sneaking into position where he can, at the very least, draw his bow.
You on it right now?
Yeah, I'm on it.
See him?
Yeah.
Well, guys, if that felt chaotic watching it, just know it was about 10 times more chaotic here in person. We've just been hanging out up here on timber, just trying to inch our way down. We can't get close because of all the deer. And I looked down here where there was a buck bedded. I caught a glimpse of an antler, and it was the buck we're calling Diablo, coming right out to us, or where we were going to be set up. And so we made a mad dash down the hill here, just kind of all in, not worried about spooking a deer, just didn't want to spook him in case he was going to come out. And I bet he came out within 40 to 50 yards of this spot. We just weren't here yet. We have 20 plus deer out here in the plot right now. This has just been crazy. They've been here probably all day. Deer bedded everywhere. They're still filing in. They're chasing all over. This is crazy, especially being ground level like this. Well, that makes 3 hunts now in a row here that we've had to get out early due to the winds. And man, what a night. He looks good. It was good to have an actual true good encounter with him. And probably a half hour ago, me and Ethan were looking at each other. We had some does bust. The wind was starting to get pretty gusty and swirly in there. And while we knew there was a chance he could come back, we thought it would be in our best interest to try to sneak out of there. He hadn't busted us. We had busted a couple deer. Most of the deer were okay, but I think as the night went on, it was going to get worse. And if he did come back, then we would have busted him. So we made the decision to sneak out, and we were just crawling out because there's still deer in the plot, and there were 2 does like coming our way. We were just trying to stay ahead of them so we could get over the crest of the hill and get out. Ethan turned and looked back and said, "What buck is that? That's him, isn't it?" And we looked back, and sure enough, he's right behind those 2 does, and they're working their way towards where we were sitting, but they were on edge. So I think if we would have sat there, we wouldn't have got a shot at him, I don't think. You never know, but those does end up kind of busting off and trotting into the woods, and he followed them. I don't think he busted. I think he just was, he ran because the does did. I wish he would have waited about 5 more minutes to come out, and for sure wouldn't have busted. But really cool encounter, man. That was intense on the ground like that, just making a beeline down towards him, watching him come out almost right where we were trying to get to. He definitely looks good, so he has beat us so far, but we're definitely going to stay in the game.
As the sun begins its ascent over the horizon on the morning of November 15th, it finds bowhunter Owen Reigler in a stand that he has been eagerly waiting to hunt since hanging it several weeks prior.
Alright guys, here we are down here in the eagle's nest. This thing's got all kinds of cover. It's a big old hedge tree. We've been excited to hunt down here because it's like right in the middle of everything. Been kind of waiting for the rut, but we're down after that white 8. We had him on camera 2 days ago, so I'm assuming he's doed up right now. Hoping he'd break free anytime, so we're in the right spot for him, I know that. Nice morning. It's probably, I don't know, low 40s. 40, 42, something like that. We got a south-southeast wind. Set in here a few hours to see what happens. Well, it's been a pretty good morning. We've seen probably, I don't know, maybe 8 bucks. Not that many does, but we've seen a lot of bucks. This one doe that was presumably in heat, that buck never left her trail. A couple we didn't film, we could hear up there grunting. Probably should sit in here until noon or all day, but I'm feeling breakfast. At this point in my hunting career, if breakfast sounds good, let's just keep it fun and go to breakfast. If Joe doesn't get a deer, that's fine.
Despite solid buck activity, Owen heads for the true trophy, a hot cup of coffee and a warm breakfast after a frosty morning hunt. 110 miles to the northeast, Jared Mills is back on the river farm, hoping to catch up with either of its legendary bucks, Dak or Merino.
We're going to start a new little series where we're going to introduce either a new product that's getting us through the sit, a fun fact, but today we're going to go with these wonderful pecans from Come and Go. These are amazing. They taste like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. They sound like they're just a massive pile of acorns, which deer love. So if you guys run over to Come and Go, check these out. They're amazing. If you guys are loyal to Casey's, we understand, but check it out.
Ideal conditions lead to great deer movement throughout the morning. Much like Owen, Jared's hunt ends at lunch for both he and cameraman Ethan Stubbs takes priority. After a quick break, Jared spends the afternoon moving a redneck blind to the spot where he encountered Diablo the day before. Jared hopes that the security of a sealed blind will allow him to combat the swirling winds of the secluded plot. After positioning the blind for a future hunt, Jared heads to the river farm for a quick afternoon sit.
Alright, it's about 4:15. Ethan and I just climbed into the blind probably a half hour ago. We're a little bit late just from doing some things today. We've already got a mature buck out here in the beans. We were able to sneak in here and he just walked out. He's feeding right now. It's a deer. I think we're going to try to get Ethan on if we can get him in here. He looks to be alone, so he might be callable. We're going to see if we can get it done. I honestly might just sell the free him. I think it's going to be easier. He's got it coming right now. Yeah. Open this window. That vertical window is ready to open. It's not latched or anything. I think he's gonna come out right here. He's taking a few steps. Yeah, just let him. I want to get him to be like perfectly rousing. Yeah. I might have to open this. Can you get on him? You better hurry. I'm not on him yet. Right underneath the ray.
The buck, now dubbed the Stubbs buck, returns to the field following the near miss, but remains out of bow range until after legal shooting time.
Looks like it's right in there for a 10 spotter. Bam! Right in there, boys. Right in the pump station.
The following afternoon, Owen Reigler makes a quick checkup on the 3D range and then makes his way to a clover plot in what he believes to be the wide 8-pointer's home range.
Alright guys, we're back at it November 16th. It's only 2:14, so we're getting in here good and early. We're back after that wide 8 again. It's kind of a toss-up if we should go back to that eagle's nest we hunted the other morning. Yesterday morning, I think. He's been on that camera quite a bit, but he's also been on that rubbing post right there quite a bit too, so just a toss-up which one to go to. It's warmed up quite a bit. It's about 65, I think, with a 10 to 15 mile an hour south wind, which is carrying across the creek that way. The last couple times we hunted here, all the deer tend to gravitate down toward this tree. About every one of them was in shooting range, so let's hope that trend continues. Got a little over 3 hours to set in here, so we'll get settled in and see what happens. Whoa! Oh my God, buddy! We were not here, what, 10 minutes? That's unreal. No way! Just walked on a string to us. Oh my gosh! I was just sitting there, daydreaming or whatever, and I just kind of glanced over and I go, Joe, there he is. It's not even 3 o'clock. It's like 2:30. That's what we were talking about with him being locked down. You just got to find the one time he's not. We just talked about on the podcast last night. I said I've never killed a good deer from the 15th to the 20th, you know, which is basically lockdown. This was that one day he broke off his doe. Game over, boys. He was getting a little nervous there, wasn't he?
Oh, what is the chances?
Oh my gosh! Alright guys, it's been about, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. I'm gonna sneak over here and check the blood and see what we got. He shouldn't have went too far with that shot. It looked like it was right in there, so let's creep over here and see what we got. There's some right there. That should be a good sign. Boy, that hit something solid, didn't it? Well, guys, Joey says he sees him right here. I can't even see him. I'm in this tangled up mess. Let's go take a look. Let's see what kind of width we got here, Joe. Oh, yeah. Boy, he made an interesting track in him right there. Took us a little bit to find him. That's gotta be one of my widest bucks right there. Right there with him anyway. What a beauty. Let's make this bow season official, guys. I said yesterday on the After Hours podcast I had not killed a good buck between the 15th and the 20th, and we are going to change that. The 16th. Alright guys, well, we got him out here the next day for a little better look at him. Interesting to see what he's done the last couple of years. Let's see, he's been on the list since 2019, so I believe he's 7.5 years old. He could be 6.5, so this would have been 2019 here, and here's what he looked like in 2020. He had a 9th point here in 2020, and then he dropped that this year, but he did put one on the left side here that he broke off. But you know, in the 3 years he's been on the hit list, he's been so elusive that, I mean, I don't know how many hours we've got in hunting this deer, or at least in the area where we might see him. And Joe and his wife, they went on a doe hunt down in the same field actually where we just shot him yesterday, and they filmed him. He, of course, that'd be the time he'd walk out, you know, when you're not hunting him, but he got some good footage of him that day, so that's pretty cool. But other than that, we've seen him one time this year and then just yesterday. So these bucks sometimes are super elusive. Joe and I were talking about that yesterday, and we figured how many hours we had in the tree this year. For 2 bucks, we had about 80 hours per buck. That's just into tree time, not counting any of the prep work, food plots, hanging stands, any of that. So you really got to put your time in. But when it all comes together like it did yesterday, super rewarding. And anytime you can get a buck to this age, you know, that's, for a management guy, that's real rewarding too. You get to see their full potential before you take them. So that's what it's all about. We'll regroup. We'll be back for the gun season. So I appreciate you guys joining us.
Well, guys, if that felt chaotic watching it, just know it was about 10 times more chaotic here in person.
Really cool encounter, man. That was intense on the ground like that, just making a beeline down towards him, watching him come out almost right where we were trying to get to. He definitely looks good, so he has beat us so far, but we're definitely going to stay in the game.
Can you get on him? I'm on him. Right underneath him, right?
Whoa! Oh my God, buddy! We were not here, what, 10 minutes? It's not even 3 o'clock, it's like 2:30. That's what we were talking about with him being locked down. You just gotta find the one time he's not.
The middle of the month is not a series of dates that most would classify as ideal for rut hunting. But as we saw with Owen and the quest for the wide 8, sometimes all it takes is being in the right place at the right time. We are now past the midpoint, halfway through the greatest month of the year. We need to make the most of every day while we are still chasing November.